Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poll Review with me, Bill, the company's expert. And we are back, and we're going to do our poll review. I send out polls every day, and you guys vote on them. And this is where we go over the results and some of the comments and see what you've been saying and what it means. And it gives us an excuse to discuss a variety of different topics to do with careers, etc., etc. So thank you for being with me today. If you haven't seen it by now, this is the latest video on my channel. Go check it out. And once again, I want to thank all my members and Patreons. You guys are awesome. Thanks for your show of support. Latest member is Gina Shin. So welcome, Gina. You are awesome. We got 12 people here, and we're going to get into this. I need more of a sort of fanfare, more of an organized thing, more sound effects. What could be the sound effect that would be the sort of branding of this show? Let me know what it should be. You could play music, but everybody plays music. You got to do something different. The sound of a shotgun blast to the face or something. I don't know. That would get people's attention. Okay, here we go. So the last several days, let's get my screen going here. Okay, so 6 days ago, I put out this question. My greatest fear when interviewing for jobs is... And the winner was not being able to answer the questions. Okay. Runner-up was making a bad impression due to nervousness. I was a bit surprised with this one, that this option here, being treated disrespectfully, was so low. I would have thought more people voted for that. But maybe things are getting better. You're not going to tell me that recruiters are starting to be more polite and respectful. But hey, there you go. Now, listen. Not being able to answer the questions, that's just a matter of preparation. You can prepare for that. You can practice individually, do preparation on your own. Watch my videos, watch other videos, watch other resources on the internet, go to workshops. There's all kinds of ways to be able to assist you with that. Okay. It takes a little bit of time, takes a few days to sort of, be able to memorize things and then what can help after that stage is, like I've said many times on my channel, is to work with a friend or family member, get them to do mock job interviews with you. Now, in terms of the comments, we had some interesting comments. I don't really think anything I was burning to respond to necessarily. I thank everybody who's got comments, and a lot of other people have responded to the comments, which is great. But occasionally you get a comment that jumps out at me that I really feel the urgent need to respond to publicly, like this. So we're gonna look for those. 5 days ago, so a little more recent, I put out this. When you got your last job, did you negotiate your offer? And most people say no. The runner-up was some people that said yes, successfully, and in third place, we've got yes, unsuccessfully. Now, this is interesting. I want to speak to this a little bit. Everybody, hopefully, should be aware that when we talk about negotiating an offer, okay, there's more than one thing that you can negotiate. Okay, everybody thinks of salary or compensation, whether it's an hourly wage or an annual salary. Yes, you can obviously negotiate that. However, depending on the situation you're in, if you're receiving a job, you're receiving a job offer for a position where, how can I put this? There's a lot of employees in the same position, okay? It's a very employee intense operation. There's a lot of people for the amount of money they're making, okay? In business to consumer businesses, we see that a lot. In business to business, especially industrial type operations, we see the opposite of that. We see they're making millions and millions and millions of dollars in this little operation, but there's only a handful of people that are generating that. That's what we see more in business to business. Now, if you're in business to business where there's a lot of money flowing through the business, but there's not that many employees, then it's a lot easier to negotiate your compensation, the amount of money you're making, okay? If you're working at McDonald's or you're working at a very labor-intensive kind of operation, they've got hundreds of employees that are all doing the same thing. It's very hard to get them to budge on the wages or on the salary, because if they make an exception for you and it gets out, they have to make an exception for everyone, and they may not be able to do that. However, okay, but remember, pay is not the only thing that you can negotiate. You can negotiate vacation, you can negotiate sick days, you can negotiate overtime, you can negotiate, work hours, or, flex place, like where you work remotely or at the office, or like there's many, many dimensions to it. Do you get a company car? Do you have your own parking space? There's many, many elements involved. So if you don't feel you can really get anywhere necessarily on the pay question, maybe they could give you a couple more vacation days, something like that, right? So remember, negotiation isn't always just confined to money. There are many, many other things that you can negotiate, and some things it's easier for them to grant you than others. So I just wanted to make that point and remind everybody of that. Okay. But there we go. We had 5,200 people voted on that. So that's great. Okay. 4 days ago, I put out another question. However, I'm going to take a question. Sam says, let's go back to the screen here. Yeah, it's showing up here. So Sam says, mine was not nailing the salary demands right. Okay. Well, listen, there's a little bit of a technique. At least there's certain principles that come into play. But as I say, depending on the type of business, things may vary. So don't beat yourself up about that. But if you can't get the salary, then it's good to have a backup plan and go to, a couple more vacation days or something like that, sick days, bereavement days, whatever, you might be able to get in there. Working conditions, maybe remote work. You say like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll meet you on the salary. That's fine. But instead of 5 days at the office, I would like 4 days at the office per week and 1 remote day. Something like that. If your job lends itself to that kind of thing, then that might be something to ask for, that they can easily grant you, possibly, and they can budge on that. Derek says, your channel supported me to get a new job. Thank you so much, loyal subscriber. Well, thank you, Derek. I'm glad to see that you're prospering, and it's very kind of you to say that. Makes me feel good. Chords of Gratitude says, I like your name. Says, what if a prospective employer gives you a cognitive reasoning and management skills test? Are you allowed to ask for the results? Why would they do that if they had less than 10 applications? It's funny. When people ask me questions like that, like, am I allowed to ask them this? That reminds me of the conditioning that people get from going through the educational system. I've commented on this a few times. It turns us into sheep because in order to succeed in that system, you're told to wait your turn, to do what you're told, to follow the rules, a lot of them arbitrary, and things like this. So, of course, when you get out into the real world at the end of it, and you're applying for jobs and things, we continue that mentality. Am I allowed to ask for this? Yeah, of course you're allowed. What's stopping you? What's wrong with it? Like anything else, there's absolutely no issue with asking that. You can ask pretty much almost anything that isn't, vulgar, I suppose. But just make sure you've got good communication skills and you understand protocol and you're very polite and professional. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Without knowing anything about your situation, I would venture a guess that they would say no. I mean, I'm doing a video that's coming out next week where I'm talking a bit about this. I mean, the idea is that their thought processes in how they select a candidate are one of their most closely guarded secrets, and they're not going to divulge that to anybody. That's why they are never going to give you feedback, or at least they're never going to give you honest feedback when you ask how you did, and this kind of stuff. Especially if you didn't get it, which is the majority of people, they never give that. That's sort of, because if they disclose that, it's like they're opening themselves up to be hacked, essentially. So don't worry about it. Look, if they've got this as their requirement, that's the way they feel they need to assess people. That's their thing. Okay. Job interviews have been found to be highly, highly ineffective. Okay. And the only reason they haven't replaced it with something else is because they don't really have anything that's practical, at least for a lot of worker level jobs. So basically, they just resign themselves to it being, can I say, crapshoot? That's what it is. Okay. Sure, you can ask for the results. Go ahead. If you ask nicely and you're polite and professional, they may say yes. Who knows? Okay, so getting back to our polls here. So 4 days ago, in job interviews, you have the most trouble with, and the winner was appearing uncomfortable. 34%. The runner-up was reading body language, surprisingly. Listen, for help with appearing uncomfortable, if that's you, if that's the number one thing that you struggle with, first of all, the best way to not appear uncomfortable is obviously not to be uncomfortable. And anything you can do in the area of working on your public speaking skills or presenting skills, if they're not one and the same, will go a long way to help you feel more comfortable when you go to job interviews, okay? Usually, there's a couple of things that make us nervous, that cause us anxiety when we go to an interview of some kind. One of them is you feel self-conscious about yourself. You've got a lot of strangers staring at you. Maybe you have like a one-on-one interview, or maybe it's a panel interview. There's maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe even more people there that are interviewing you. In those cases, certainly a huge part of what makes people feel uncomfortable, especially when they're starting out, is just having strangers all looking at you. And we are hardwired as humans to find that very uncomfortable. And so when you learn about public speaking and you practice public speaking, getting up in front of a group of people and speaking, and they're all staring at you, a couple of things come. First of all, you lose your anxiety that's induced by that. So just the fact that other people are staring at you, you're not as affected by anxiety. You still feel a little bit of anxiety, at least in my experience, but it's nowhere near what you felt when you were first starting out. And you can easily sort of work with it, okay? So you'll never feel 100% comfortable. I don't think it's normal to feel 100% comfortable, like you're lounging at home, when you're in an interview of some kind. But it doesn't affect you nearly as much. It reduces right down, and you can work through it. The other reason that you may be nervous is, was that in this poll? No, it wasn't in this poll. But the other reason is because maybe the stakes are high. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. It's the fact that the stakes are really high. You could be writing a final exam in school, and you're not dealing with another person interacting with you. You're just taking a test. But that alone causes you, obviously, anxiety. It's because the stakes are high. So there's ways around that, or at least you can mitigate it by applying for a lot of jobs, getting a lot of interviews. And what that does is subconsciously you feel like, okay, the stakes aren't as high because even if I don't get this opportunity, I've got other things lined up. So that makes me feel a little bit better, a little bit more confident, a little bit like, the stakes aren't quite as high. My entire life doesn't depend on the outcome of this, and that can help with that. So these are a couple of things that you do have some measure of control over. So hopefully that helps. We're getting back to questions here. Where did I leave off? Okay, Chords of Gratitude says, thank you for responding. Absolutely no problem, Chords of Gratitude. Thank you for being here and asking a question. Sammer says, I have a third round interview scheduled this week, but it was scheduled 2 weeks after the second interview. Why so long after the second, your opinion? Well, I mean, it could be anything. We don't know. If I were to guess, I would say that there are other interviews too that they're doing. Okay. It may be other candidates for the position you applied for your job, or it could be other positions they have open. Okay. The other thing that can cause that is if a hiring manager is going to be present at the interview, their time, usually a lot of the time, they've got a very tight schedule, and making room for a series of job interviews, just stuffing that into their schedule on top of all the regular stuff they got to do. They don't usually have that much free time, right? So that's why it can be pushed out many days. Okay, so if I had to guess, it could be those, but there's no way of knowing, and I wouldn't worry about it. There are some legitimate reasons. Just go there and do your best, and then keep looking forward, keep applying for more stuff. If they call you back, awesome. If they don't, just keep moving forward. Something will come along, and the sooner you look for other things, the sooner you will get a bite. I think my video was skipping a moment ago. If I do this, it's like going like that. So I don't know what's going on, but we're just going to get through this together. Okay, where was I here? I'm going to get back to the polls just for a moment here because I got to keep moving with that. Okay, so we did that one. So then 3 days ago, there was this one. If you get anxiety doing job interviews, it is because, here we go. This is somewhat related to the last one. The winner was the stakes are so high. So a lot of people are feeling this. You guys are feeling this. The runner-up was you dislike being the center of attention. Okay, well, the good news is that, like I just kind of talked about, you can manage these. Okay, it is possible to manage these and to mitigate some of the risk. That doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately. It takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time, but the work you guys are doing now by going to these job interviews like over and over and over and over again, they're high pressure situations, you feel uncomfortable, you're out of your comfort zone. Just know that that is having a cumulative educational effect on you, okay? The more of these you do, the more routine they become, the more you know what to expect because you end up having seen it all. And therefore, the more comfortable you get because anything they throw at you, you've been through it before. You've seen it before. You know how it goes. So that helps you prepare. That helps you not be caught off guard. This might be a little consolation, if you're in the thick of this, you're just starting out, but this is how you learn. You get thrown into the deep end and you learn very quickly, okay? And interviewing for jobs is something that a lot of people, they're going to be doing their whole lives. Like, not continually, hopefully, but, it will keep coming up 10 years from now, maybe 20 years from now. Even if you're just an internal job interview for a promotion or something, you're gonna be in this situation many times in your life. And for most people, it like 99% of people, it gets easier as you go, okay? So the work you're doing and the pain you're feeling right now, it will pay off. You just gotta, just stick with it. Just ride it out. I know that doesn't really help, but just having that at the back of your mind, maybe that does something. I don't know. Yeah, I think I already sort of spoke to this one on the last question. We got a lot of good questions here. Fortunately, I'm coming back to these after several days, so I don't remember what were some good ones, but there you go. Let's go back to the chat briefly here. Gary Vaughn says, I belong to a couple of Toastmaster International clubs. Right on, Gary. I've talked about Toastmasters several times. Toastmasters help with public speaking in a safe place with great feedback from club members. Yes, I endorse Gary's remarks fully, wholeheartedly. Gary says, I encourage anyone to find a Toastmaster club to visit. They would work with you to work through that anxiety. Yes, that's one of the things you can do. It's really good, especially for people that have never done this kind of thing before. You just go to the website, Toastmasters International. They have these clubs peppered like all over, like every city, basically. And if there's one usually near you, relatively near you, a few blocks away, they might even have it near your place of work. You can go on a lunch hour or something, depending on your situation. And I mean, I have absolutely no affiliation with this organization. I'm just saying that it's really good. It's helped a lot of people. But some clubs are better than others. Like each one is its own group of people. And if you get like a lot of them, you'll get some very positive, friendly, accommodating, welcoming people that make you feel really good. And they know what it's like to sort of not be great at this in the beginning. And, it's a very encouraging atmosphere. Some clubs are, they're a bit warmer than others, but if you can find a really great bunch of people there that, they make you feel really good to be there and they really encourage you, it can be a great environment to step into the world of public speaking and sort of start learning some of the techniques and overcoming your fears. And then you feel more comfortable, you feel more confident. And then when you go to things like job interviews, because you're used to doing public speaking, that stuff doesn't really make you nervous. You feel pretty confident yourself and you don't have the anxiety. Sam says, some employers just force you to go through an online application process and obligatory salary question. And I was told a few times that I filled in a large amount. Thanks for all your help. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, listen, every recruiter on the planet will want you to go through standard channels. So they'll want you to apply online or apply through their standard process. That's what all recruiters would love you to do. However, the reality is that most people do not get a job that way. They get a job through some form of networking, okay? And a lot of, there are many, many different ways you could do networking, right? But a lot of those ways don't involve you going through a standard channel with a job application. Other ways, usually the way this works is that you have some kind of personal interaction with somebody at the organization. The way that I encourage people is to proactively reach out to managers and things in that organization. It is really easy if you know how to do it, okay? And so you don't have to have a previous connection to the organization or anyone in it. You reach out proactively to the organization. That's how you make the connection. And you don't do it in the sense that like, oh, I'm looking for a job. You do it in the sense that like, hey, I'm just wanting to learn more about the industry. Would I be able to ask you a few questions? Pretty benign, pretty harmless, stuff like that. That's a standard way of doing this. And then when you meet someone and you know how to talk to them and you ask them a few questions, all you have to do is ask them questions about themselves and their industry. That's really not hard. People love that. They love it. I mean, think about it. How often has someone contacted you and said, look, I think you're great. I think what you do is really interesting and really exciting. I'd love to be able to sit down with you for a few minutes and just ask you some questions about, the work you do and the nature of your industry you're in. You don't have to be an executive. You don't have to be a manager. Most people find that really flattering. And then if you meet the person and they're friendly and they don't talk all about themselves. They ask you about stuff you're interested in talking about. We tend to enjoy that. We tend to like the person doing it. And stuff like that. So anyway, I won't go into detail, but that's kind of the route in for a lot of these. Recruiters would love you to not do any of that and just send in a job application, and then they can ignore it later. But the way a lot of people end up getting jobs is that they contact somebody at the organization to say, like, look, I'm passionate about this industry. I have some skills in it. I'd like to learn more about it. Would you be able to answer a few questions about it? Is that okay? People say, hey, I like the cut of your jib. You got a great attitude and, you're really friendly and I enjoy talking to you and you're making me feel good about myself. So that's usually a way in for a lot of people if you don't already have some kind of personal connection, which most people don't. It's just about learning that. Now, I talk about that on my channel. I can't get into everything here, but if you were interested in learning that, you want to get the full definitive source of everything step by step with templates, that's in that course, the Get Hired course. Link in the description. If you're interested, no pressure. So yeah, I'm not surprised, Sam. A lot of employers would love you to just, go through them, right? There was a movie that I'm sure nobody here has seen. It was not a great movie. It was called Coneheads years ago, based on a Saturday Night Live skit. And there was a character in that movie, I can't remember the name of the actor, but he was basically saying, oh, I'm sorry, that has to go through me. Everything has to go through him. That way he gets more power, right? It's kind of like that, right? The boss hires people in the HR department, in the recruitment and selection kind of department to find talent, right? But if the boss finds that some talent has just landed right in their lap, right? This person has contacted them and they have a personal connection with them now and they're awesome. That's all you need to convince. So there you go. Anyway, getting back to this. Let's see, where were we here? 2 days ago, I put out this question. The key to showing confidence in a job interview. Oh, this was a joke. Every Saturday I do a joke one of these. So the key to showing confidence in a job interview is an absolutely rigid posture, an extremely assertive facial expression, like having the wild eyes, a handshake grip of 200 foot-pounds, so you could break every bone in somebody's hand, a boomingly thunderous speaking voice, or my personal favorite, ordering the interviewer to first go make you a sandwich. Now, that was the winner, apparently. And then the runner-up was an extremely assertive facial expression. Like that would be, kind of like really intense kind of thing. I can't do it, but if you really want to contort your face and scare people, maybe that's the secret to success. It's kind of like who's the alpha here. So anyway, that was a joke. I got all kinds of comments. I got people getting upset. I got people getting confused. I got people insulting me, insulting everybody else. I got people loving every option and raving about it. So I just do these for fun. You got to have a little bit of a sense of humor, even when it comes to this stuff. I know it's a very stressful thing, but got to just find a little bit of spice of life in there somewhere. Okay. And here's the last one from yesterday. If someone has more than I have, it's because, and here are the options. They've earned it, and that's okay. It was given to them, and that's okay. They earned it, and that's not fair. It was given to them, and that's not fair. Or, if someone has more than I have, it's because everything is random and fortunes change continually. That was the winner, okay? Now, I put these options in. I got several questions. People were asking, like, why would you write that? Is that a thing? Yes, I've encountered a lot of people in my life, and I've encountered people that firmly believe in each of these. So yeah, they exist and they're out there. So even some of these other options here, they earned it, and that's not fair. There's some people that will make a very compelling argument for, they were put in a privileged position where they were able to earn it, whereas a lot of people weren't able to even earn it, and that's why it's not fair. Stuff like that. I've heard all kinds, and I'm not putting anyone down. I respect all these opinions, and I'm sure that they do apply sometimes. All of them apply sometimes. It's not about what I think. It's about what you guys think. I mean, I agree that but the purpose of asking a question, it's almost like being back in high school when they ask you a multiple choice question. You can't answer with, it depends. We all know it depends. There are exceptions to everything, especially in stuff like this. But if you had to pick one that was more true than the others in more of the scenarios, which one would it be? Okay, a lot of people complained that it depends, and they're upset that they couldn't say that. I know. If I put an option for it depends, everyone will select it depends, and that is avoiding the question. So which one do you think is more predominant? And apparently everybody thinks that it's just completely random. And someone made the point in the comments, they said, look, if everybody thinks it's random, why are we here trying to improve ourselves, to pass job interviews, and so on? And I thought, touche. So thank you to everybody who participated. No matter what you wrote here, you're all awesome. No matter what you said, you're awesome. I'm just glad that people participated, and especially the ones that didn't beat me over the head for asking such questions in the first place. If people have a really negative response to the fact they're asked this question, to me that kind of maybe says something, perhaps a little bit about, maybe they are answering it internally to themselves and they don't like what they're hearing. I don't know. Just my theory. I'm not a psychologist. Where did we leave off in the questions here? I've got a few minutes left, so I will answer these. Jip says, I start my new job in 2 days and I have the fear. Are you getting the fear, Jip? Don't worry. You are going to be fine. Okay. Within 2 days of you starting, it'll lose a lot of its mystery. It'll seem relatively straightforward and you'll really feel like, you got this. Okay. That's how these things go. We have a fear of the unknown. We're intimidated by the unknown. Once you get your foot in the door and you spend a little bit of time, a couple of days, you'll see that it loses a lot of its mystique and it's really not that big of a deal. So you're going to do just fine. Don't worry about it. Buteween. There's a name. Good name. Buteween says, should I try to apply for high-level C-suite work if I don't have the experience, but can do great interviews and express gravitas, confidence, and gusto? Gravitas, confidence, and gusto. Are you saying, should I apply for a C-suite job if you are not qualified for it? Is that what you're saying? I would say, look, you can apply. I wouldn't expect you to get too far if you don't have like essential things that they're looking for. Yeah, like you can apply. There's many ways to get these things. I don't know any statistics on this. I don't know if statistics on this exist. Anybody has compiled them, but it seems to me, in my experience, the number one way you get those kind of positions is just simply networking, because a lot of it is based on personal trust. People have to trust you. Think of it. Let's say, a business is hiring a new chief information officer, chief marketing officer, chief operating officer, chief financial officer. Okay. Now, chief financial officer, if you're a certified accountant, if you have several letters after your name, trust may be less of an issue, but it still applies. Okay. Because anybody in those roles, you have the ability, if you make bad decisions, you have the ability to flush that entire business operation right down the toilet. You can destroy the entire thing through your actions just by doing your job in an incompetent way and making bad decisions. If you make the wrong decisions, all these people can be out of work because of you. Okay. Not only that, but the owners, okay, they own this thing and you just destroyed it. It's like it's like inviting, it's like buying a second house. Let's say you have a house or a home or an apartment, whatever. You buy yourself a second home, a second apartment, second house, whatever. And you can't be two places at once. Okay. So you hire somebody and put them in charge of it, right? And they burn down your house. Okay. You would have to trust that person a lot because you've given them the keys to your house. They're allowed to be there by themselves and to do things in the house, to paint the walls and to, maintain the property or, whatever. And if they leave the gas stove on and go out for a walk or take a nap and then someone lights a match and burns down the house, it's like, you've just lost something extremely valuable. You've had to work 20 years, 30 years to get enough money to buy that. So who are you going to put in charge of that? You're going to put somebody that you really, really trust in charge of that. You want to get the right person. Okay. If this person doesn't work out, then, there's no contingency, right? If you hire an entry-level person, as a clerk or some low-level thing, and they don't work out, it's like, okay, well, it's unfortunate, but you replace them and get on with your life, right? But this, you can't get on with your life, right? So that's what it's like hiring in the C-suite, okay? So that should frame it for you. What do you need for them to trust you in that role? If you're a stranger and you say, hey, I've got this education, will that cut it? If you've got a second house, would you just hire a stranger who says, hey, I've looked at houses before. Look, I wrote it down on my resume, right? That probably won't work. So ask yourself what it would take for someone to trust you with that level of responsibility, okay? Maybe they've heard of you. Maybe you worked at other companies and they've heard of you. You've had a presence in your industry. You've gone to events. You're constantly publishing articles. You're well known for being a person in this position. Maybe you've worked for them for many years in positions of gradually increasing responsibility, and they've thrown all kinds of various challenges at you, different types of challenges, and you've risen to the challenge each time, and you've crushed it. Like, what would it take? Because that's a question you have to answer for yourself. So hopefully that makes sense. Julia, I remember Julia says, hi, Bill, do you have other courses except getting hired, something with sales perhaps? Well, that's what the $100 MBA is about. It's about business, and a big part of business is marketing, and within marketing, there's sales. So you do get a marketing component in that course, if that's what you're interested in learning. And there's a very good book that I thoroughly recommend that's part of that course that has a lot of good information, and it breaks down the concepts for you. But no, I don't have a course just on sales, if that's what you're asking. But check that out. No pressure. If it's something that works for you, great. If not, it's not really what you have in mind, that's fine too. But marketing is and sales and marketing go hand in hand. Marketing, I think, is the much more interesting side of it, because sales is like sort of the doing part, the tactics, but marketing is like the strategic component that sets the whole thing up. Okay, so in order to know how to do sales effectively, in my opinion, you need to have at least some appreciation for marketing. You're welcome, Jim. And Butte Ween says, yes, but I'm trying to find cool managers and owners. That's the big one. Ha ha ha. Well, listen, a big part of it is personal relationships. I mean, you need more than just personal relationships, but that's like a big component of it. Okay? Just knowing people, being able to get along well with people, being very likable, that is a part of it. Okay? It's not the be all end all, but it is a part. That will open opportunities for you. But usually the way this works is any person that's hiring at that level, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a board member, whether you're another executive, whatever, if you're worth your salt, you need to be able to see through more than just likability and networking skill. Sometimes you get a lot of extroverted people that sort of manage to get themselves in an executive position, and because they're great at the socialization, they're great at the networking, they're great at having a lot of personal charisma and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that when they have to actually do their job, that's when they show to be the weakest link, right? So that's happened a lot of times. So anyone worth their salt really can't get fooled by that stuff. That sort of makes you a contender if you have that. But then you have to see through that to see someone's genuine ability. So if you have a lot of accomplishments under your belt, you can say look, I've done this, I've done that. I can adapt that. I can adapt that to solve these problems here. That is really what it's all about. But if you don't have the networking and the likability and all that, it's very hard to even be a contender, because a component of those jobs is you have to be a politician, or an influencer to a degree. You have to be sort of a public face. You have to represent the organization to not only the public when you're at that level, but to your workforce. Okay. And you need to be able to do that. And you're also interfacing with all kinds of people outside the organization and, partners, vendors, customers, regulators, the press, all kinds of entities. And you need to be able to do that. You need to understand diplomacy and, publicity, how to do public relations and all that kind of stuff. So it's like there's several boxes you got to tick, right? Anyway, sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but yeah, nobody really talks about that stuff. I wish more people would. More people that know what they're talking about, I wish they would talk about it. Like I know my own experience, but it's hard to get information on how this stuff works like across the board, So I got the problem when I'm asked for advice on stuff like this, or people ask me for my opinion. My opinion is based on my experience, and that might not be representative of how things work, say, in a different industry. So there you go, or in a different country for that matter. Anyway, thank you for everybody who's here. There's 14 of you guys here. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Poll Review. I will be back actually in 20 minutes to do my regular Monday live stream called How to Get Hired, where we talk about job interviews, resumes, networking, all that kind of stuff. So join me for that if you're interested. Other than that, I will be back next week, same time, with another episode of Poll Review. So thank you very much, and you guys are awesome. Take care.